Morning, everybody. It's October 31st. Kind of a dismal, foggy day today. We completed our bean harvest last week. We jumped into that right after corn silage and didn't have much time to do any of the cleanup work on the chopper. Our chopper has a processor, and that smashes the kernels, and it makes a lot of juicy mess inside of it when you run it through those rolls. So one of the things we like to do is get that cleaned up and out of there. We typically take it out and wash it right away. Didn't get a chance to do that. Actually, I just got the head removed the other day. We were moving some other equipment around back here. Got the head removed. We store it over here along the wall beside the snowblower. The hay head takes up a lot less space, so we can pull the chopper in the shed farther. But got a little time here this morning, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour of how to remove the processor on this chopper. So I got to get a couple tools in place here. Claas is nice enough to give you a nice little toolbox underneath here. Pretty handy. We've got a toolbox we've added to the chopper also. We don't have many metric things on the farm, so this is one of the few items that we have that has a lot of metric bolts on it. So the metric set stays with the Claas. We have added some metric tools in the shop. Sorry, it's kind of dark in here. The other year we had a little carnage. Our chopper, our shear bar broke in 3 pieces. Went into the cylinder. Knives went everywhere. Made a real mess of things. Poked holes in this piece right here. This is the accelerator. It had holes in it. We took it down to Reberland Equipment, and they got on it right away. We weren't done chopping corn by any means. And they welded the hole shut and put new knives and new shear bar in it and patched her up and got her up and running for us. Those guys are really good about getting you back in the field. I will say that. Their service department is really good. So that's why this looks nice and shiny. So one of the things that you get, the old one, you had to stuff this accelerator vacuum hose. I call it a vacuum hose. It goes onto your radiator fan here, your rotary screen, and that provides vacuum to suck dust out of your radiator and put it in the accelerator and put it back on the wagon, which is a good place for it. That's where feed belongs. So anyway, it came with this nice quick detach, which we didn't have before. This right here. You used to have to shove the hose in that hole, and it was kind of a job to get it back in there. So it's much easier now. Just unscrew that quick detach, take it off. Much more convenient than the old way of doing it. Another thing I have learned, are you on? Yeah. Another thing I have learned over the course of the School of Hard Knocks is this line right here. This line right here is the pressure luber from the power luber to the processor. This coupler right here, it is very important for that to be tight, not hand tight. You need to put a vice grips or something on it to actually compress that, because there's a high compression fitting in there. If you do not do that, the grease does not get to these bearings properly, and we burned up a bearing on our processor. So I did learn that from the service guys at Reberland also, that you do need to have a vice grips and a wrench on it to get that tight enough. I'm going to try and find a place to put you guys to watch some of this while we're doing this. I think that'll work. So that's one of the first steps, is to get this part. Claas is very organized with their engineering. You take something apart somewhere else or somewhere, and it gets plugged back in somewhere else. So you know, you unhook one thing and that lends to hooking up something else. So nothing gets grease in it, or dirt in it. So you're unhooking one line and it gets hooked back on somewhere else. These little handy plugs come with things. So when you unhook something, you can put this on. It keeps the dirt out of the greaser system. Because the last thing you want to do is get dirt introduced into that system and get it plugged up for you. That is tight. There it goes. This pressure luber is really nice. A lot of your newer, larger equipment does come with these pressure lubrication systems, which makes it nice because the machine gets greased automatically throughout the course of the day as it's working. In the cab up there there's a light that comes on that tells you that the machine is greasing. It's a little picture of a grease gun. It's kind of cool. So it comes on. If you're watching, occasionally you'll see that pop on. You'll know the system's greasing, and that's very important. So we're going to return that line now. What we're doing is we're going to complete the circuit. This is used for the processor only. When it's not in use for the processor, it gets put up here. And all it does then is complete the circuit and go back to itself. All the other lines in this grease bank go to different items on the chopper. There's bearings on your accelerator, feed rolls. There's just a lot of places that those lines go. The power luber is really nice. When I first got it, I didn't know how to fill the thing, and the thought of having to take that thing off and take a putty knife and try and fill it with grease sounded kind of obnoxious. So it's got this little grease zerk right here on the side of this, so you can hook a grease gun to that. So what I do is I take my Kloss grease, I put it in my Lincoln Power Luber. I've got a Lock and Lube. This is an advertisement for them too, by the way. Those are very nice. Snap the Lock and Lube on there, kick the Power Luber into high speed and pull the trigger. And you can pump a tube of grease in there in pretty short order. Kind of difficult to see where the grease level is because this is kind of discolored with age, but I try to, about every couple days I'll put a tube of grease in it. I don't know how much it actually uses. I know we don't put the hours on these machines on this machine that the custom operators do, but I try to make sure that's always got grease in it. Back inside of here there's a little electrical outlet that you unplug. What that's for, I'm really not certain. All I know is it's part of the processor, so I hook it up. This chopper, the nice thing about this chopper is it doesn't have a lot of the electronics on these new ones do. I don't know, this is me talking. I'm old school. I think that the failure of our equipment that's made today is going to be due to the electronics. I don't think that electronics are going to last the 40, 50, 60 years that some of my tractors have. I think that electronics will fail long before that, so I don't think you're going to see a 50 or 60 year old Kloss chopper with a lot of electronics on it that's not a real problem. It's going to be expensive to maintain. That's just me, I don't know. So much of this new stuff is very high tech. It has a lot of fancy stuff on it that's really nice. But my question is I'm usually the guy that buys stuff secondhand. Are us secondhand guys going to want that stuff? What's it going to cost us to keep that stuff in operation? And I don't think we'll be able to financially. I think it'll become cost prohibitive. So I don't know what'll become of them. I guess we'll have to wait. I won't be around in 50 years, but we'll see. Maybe my grandson will find out if these choppers are still around. The fancy ones and fancy tractors. Who knows? By then maybe I'll have all electric tractors or plastic food. Who knows? Artificial food. It's very important to keep these things where they don't get damaged. This thing's going to go out through the roof. I think you saw a video of when we put it in, that cage right up there. You swing the spout to the side, a 90-degree angle, and that roof opens, okay? And we're going to take this thing right out through the ceiling. It's really nice compared to the way we used to do it. We used to try and bring it through this little opening here on the side where I crawled in. And that's kind of a tight fit. Now we got a cover over here on the side. This covers up the processor belt, drive belt. When the processor's not in here, I usually just leave this thing off, take it out of here. I only put it in when the processor's in here. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but when we got the chopper, it actually didn't even have this shield. Those are just some quarter turn bolts that go on there. One more little added feature, to undo that processor, it's got a really high tension spring on it for tension, to tension it up. And they said you could stick a bar in there. That made me a little nervous. That thing's got a lot of pressure on it. So I made this Kloss Wonder Bar here that fits in that slot back there, so you can release the pressure on this thing. Takes two hands. Have to release you for a moment. And then I store it here on the chopper. I made this little, I like making things handy. That way you don't wonder next year, well, where is that bar we used to use to put that on? The only thing that's confusing is the belt itself. That thing goes around every which way you can think of. So to save confusion and having to go to the book every year, I made this handy little Kloss diagram right here that shows you where that thing goes. Makes it a lot simpler to put on. So, next thing is we gotta get the belt off. A lot easier once the pressure's off of that. Four groove belt, pretty wide. Kloss dealer, I was down there this fall to get something. That's right, we had a speed sensor go bad. That was kind of an odd thing. Anyway, they told me that they had a run on processor belts this fall. Everybody was burning up their processor belt. I don't know what was up with that. Knock on wood, we didn't burn ours up. Okay, so the belt's off, electric's unhooked, grease line's unhooked. Now the next thing is we got to get it out of there. That processor goes in on this little train track here. Nothing, excuse me, nothing more than roller chain welded to the floor. These little sprockets right here are what it runs on. Brings it back. First thing we got to do is we got to take these dogs loose up here so that these cams can turn, and that'll let it move. We'll get these loose. I'm going to tighten them up just a smidge so they don't get in the way. When you take the processor out, then we put a hay chute back in, because hay is the first thing we chop in the spring. Hay chute will plug up the hole where the processor was. We won't be able to do that today because I don't have the help or the weather to pull this thing outside and lift it up today. That's going to be another day. We'll lift it up. We'll use our handy dandy Harbor Freight crane on the end of our 95 XT boom that we made and take her out through the roof. At that point in time, we'll take it down, we'll wash it out with hot water, and At that point in time also I will clean this out real good and blow it up. But with the processor in here, it's kind of hard to get enough room to do much cleaning. So now we'll put a ratchet on our little processor car. And you can see how this thing works right here. It's got like a nut sticking back on the end of this shaft. And that little car runs on that train track there that's made out of roller chain. Now I've got to get skipping here for a minute and try and get out of there. Got a lot of junk outside here. It's going to fall probably. Well, whatever it takes to get out. Okay, we're going to go ahead and winch that thing back here as far as we can. So when it comes time to take her out, we can get her out. That might be about it. Okay. Now I got to locate the chain. We've got a special chain made just for this job. Lifting that out. So I guess I'm going to put some of these parts away and then I'll be back. I had to take those parts up and put them up here in front. I keep some of the cloth parts in here. These pieces right here actually hold the corn head on. I found that if you take them off, when you let the feeder house down, you're less likely to bend that bolt when that rod comes down. So it's better if you just remove those. This is an older style corn head, so it has manual pieces that you put in to hold the head in place. Up here on the wall, we have our wall of Claas parts. There's a drive shaft right there, coupler. That's for the hay head, the yellow one. The white one is a homemade one for the corn head right here in front of me. Then that green pan right there is a corn saver pan that I didn't know we needed until one year I noticed when I picked the head up at the end of the field, there are little chunks of dissected corn cob with shelled corn on them at the end of the field every time I picked the head up. And I found out that when you raise the head, there's a gap right here between here and the feed roll. And what that pan does is it bridges that gap, okay? So anything coming in here has to go into the chopper. So any small pieces of cob or shelled corn or whatever does not fall. The Canadian geese were not very happy that year that I got that, because they were used to coming and having a smorgasbord at the end of the field on that shelled corn that would fall out of that head every time I picked it up. So something else that I learned that I needed that I didn't know it didn't come with. I guess we bought the chopper and a hay head and we didn't have a corn head. We got the corn head from Alvin Zimmerman out at Greenwich. And when we bought the corn head, I didn't know that we needed that. So anyway, so put these wrenches away, and then we will go in search of the chain to lift the head. I think I know where it is. I will be back. Well, I found it. I hunted all over the farm. Then I did what I should have done to start with. I called Ben. It was in the toolbox of the chopper. Logical place to put it. It made sense. Anyway, the purpose of this chain here is to give you a lifting point on here. Fit this thing up right here. And we have found the best place to lift this is there's a frame right here. Let's see. I don't know which way. So we lift on the heavy part of the frame of the processor. Yeah, I think that's how we do it. Anyway, there's one of those on each side. I don't know where we got these. They're like a cast steel eye bolt, so they can't come apart. I don't remember where we got them. But anyway, You need something pretty stout to hold that. That thing probably weighs 500-600 pounds. Not something you want to drop. Anyway, so we'll hook to this right here in the center with our winch, and we've got a swivel on that so you can steer this thing a little bit back and forth. And we got to lift this thing out of here. So I guess that's about as far as we can go with this for today. We'll get the nastiness cleaned up next time. So I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna step back and give you a view of what we used to be dealing with to get it out of there. To put the processor in before, we used to have to bring it through this little narrow opening right here. The processor is deeper than that is wide, so that required you to get the processor back and try and get it vertical. So we had another chain we hooked in another place to try and pick it up. And the problem is, you have, if you can visualize this, you've got a skid steer boom pipe coming in here and a chain. It doesn't give you much room to work in here, so you have to get in and you have to try and physically push that forward as you let it down. So the pipe's coming down on your back when you're trying to let this down, so that's not very handy. This door right here doesn't go up very high, so you have to take the riser off and shove a 2x4 in to get the door higher. So that was a job. It used to take quite a while to take it in and out, and it was a nerve-wracking thing, and you didn't want to pinch somebody. It was very dangerous. And boy, when we got that 95 XT and we started going through the roof, boy, we really got the answer then. Because in the book, if you look in the Kloss book, they always take them out. They show you a picture of a crane in a shop, and they're just pulling it right out through the roof. But we did not have that option. So, but I'm thankful for that big skid steer that we have now. It enables us to do it the safer way. Very nice. Another little trick here. If you have a Kloss chopper, this is your step leader. If you step on here continuously, you'll eventually bend the door of your chopper. So I've got a little wooden kickstand that I put under there that keeps that door from getting messed up. So, okay. That's all we can do with this for now. So now we're going to go on to combine prep. We're going to be getting ready for shelling corn. That's the next job. Okay, we're going to start taking this combine and putting it back into the rigid position so we can do wheat next summer. I guess I just like to put it back in the rigid position when I take it off the combine. What that does is it changes it from floating to a stationary cutter bar position. I'll figure out where to put you guys so that you can see what we're doing here. If you can see that or not, probably not. Anyway, here's a chain that's put in place in here. It allows this cutter bar to go up and down. And in place of that goes a turnbuckle. So instead of a flex joint, you have a rigid joint. Kind of hard to do by yourself, so we're going to see if I can do this. Kind of nice when you have somebody to lift up on it if it needs to go up. Oops. Missed it. We'll see how we do. So what I did is I took this chain out that was in here before. I'm putting in that type, or that turnbuckle type deal. I have to go up higher to get this bottom pin in here. So I'll see if I can raise it up a little bit more. A little bit more. It's going to be pretty close. Fraction more. Finally, success. Guess I just had to find the right combination. Anyway, this piece of wood here, old broken handle, is what we use for this. I don't know where we got it, but anyway. So now we have to go down through and put in the rest of these stops. And so that stick is just the right size to kick it in there. Put these straps on. What these straps do is they allow you to keep it in the rigid position. Nuts go up, keeps the dirt out of the threads. Usually when you're cutting wheat, you're cutting pretty high. You don't have to worry about getting dirt in them, but it's best to put them where it's not going to happen. So we put them nuts up. And there's 4 of these guys that go on here. So there's one here, there, and there. So I'm not going to bore you with repetition. But anyway, that's what I need to do. So I'm going to go down through and do the rest. Got all 4 of those straps in place underneath here. So now the head is rigid. So now it'll be used for wheat next. Underneath here, 2 years ago, we put these poly shoes on, extensions of the shoes that were already there, the steel shoes, and that helps it slide much easier over the ground. And then we had an issue with pushing dirt here. This joint right here was pushing dirt. We made these strips the other year to get it to stop pushing dirt here. It looks like we might have to replace those here before too long. We're getting some wear right here. It's getting thin. But that eliminated a spot where it was catching and pushing dirt. So that's about as much time as I have for now. So we'll have more combine repair videos coming. More time coming.